Hello, good morning, good evening, good day, good afternoon, and aloha. Welcome back to another episode of the Unidentified Celebrity Review, your home for credible news, reviews, and commentary on everything UFOs. Here we are from the new office. It's looking pretty snazzy. What do you guys think out there? We got some folks in the live stream. We got 5 folks here with us. Don't be shy. Say hello in the chat. Today we've got a really fun guest, one of my favorite people out here in Los Angeles, just because he's so authentic and he's really God, I'm trying to think of a great way to describe Jacob. He really is cut from a different cloth. He thinks differently. He thinks outside the box. He's he's just one of my favorite souls. Forget about actors out here. He's just a good dude. So we're gonna talk about a lot of things because he's training to be a pilot. We've got the American Airlines story and cockpit recording that I'd like him to hear. Derek, what's happening? Thank you so much. It's very fancy. I'm glad you like the new studio. So we've got a couple things to talk about. We've got updates on the big phone home, which is going to be a lot of fun. Had a really productive meeting today. We'll go into that a little bit. And we also will be taking some phone calls from you guys live in the chat. So get ready for that. If you have any questions for me about anything UFOs related, let me know. You don't think my mic's on? All right, hold on a second. Let me just check my mic here real quick, you guys. Make sure that I'm using the correct microphone, which I don't think I am. Oh, wait, hold on a second. All right, there we go. Oh, wait, hold on. Sorry, you guys. Give me 2 seconds. There we go. All right. Does that sound good there? Is that better, you guys? Can you hear me here? I hope the first part of that was coming through. But nobody said anything in the chat. Babe, was it just a different mic that we were getting picked up on, or was it anyway, whatever. Let's continue. So without further ado, let's it was through your phone. Okay, perfect. So they can still hear me. All right, awesome. So it should sound better now, you guys, because now I've got the microphone connected. All right, so here we go. And this is what I love about live shows. You never know what happens. Thank you, Derek. Thank you, Will R. And thank you, Rodrigo. Welcome, you guys. Alien Girl, thank you for the tweet out about the show. Like I said, get your questions ready. You guys will be taking those at the end of the show. But without further ado, let's bring on Mr. Jacob Matthews.
Luis.
How are you, sir?
I'm good. I just came back from a 4-hour flight, and I'm tired, but I ate.
Oh, man. Hold on 1 second there, dude. You know what? Now, okay. Now I've got my headphones in. Dude, all these settings are all messed up. All right. Can you talk?
Yeah. How you doing?
Unreal. Hold on 1 sec.
It's not me.
Man, what is happening? All right, be patient with me here, you guys. Let me plug these back in. I think that's what's going on. All right, check. Hello. You got anything for me, bud?
Luis, can you hear me good?
Oh, man.
No?
Nothing. This is so crazy. All right, give me 2 seconds, you guys. Live shows, live problems. This is what happens. Microphone. Hello. Just keep talking, Jake, as if.
Well, you look great.
As if
I'm
sure I'm going to hear you here in a second.
I could be talking to nobody right now, which is fine. I think so Maroon looks really good on you.
Babe, can you hear him?
Babe, can you hear me? Babe? Babe? Yeah. What's her name, Michelle?
Yeah, you can hear him. Okay, but I can't. This is so weird. Okay, so my audience can hear you, but I cannot hear you. I don't know what just happened. Maybe, you know what I'll do if this doesn't work? Hold on 1 sec.
Hey, audience members, how's it going? It's Jake Matthews here. I have just taken over the unidentified celebrity review.
Yeah, just keep talking.
Now that we got away with that, we're going to talk about unidentified and celebrities and reviews. Which topic do you guys want to start with? Unidentified? Well, UFOs. Are they real or are they not? What do we think about Roswell? What do we think about that Israeli guy who just confirmed that UFOs are real? Is he just looking to sell a book? I think so.
There we go. All right, now I hear you.
You can hear me.
Yeah,
hey,
I don't know what
I think. All my best material.
No, I'm sure I did, and I apologize for that, man. I don't know what the hell happened there. I think what happened is you were coming through my speaker, and then I shut the speaker off, and then you were coming through my headphones.
Ain't no thing.
Yeah, so I had to completely back out and then come back in. All right, I'm sorry, guys. Wow, what a weird start. So what were you talking about?
I was saying that you look really cute. I love this salt and pepper little Grecian tuft of hair.
Oh, thanks, buddy. Thanks, man. Yeah. I do appreciate that. See, this is why I like you, man. You always puff me up.
How long does it go back?
It's out of control.
Really?
Yeah. I haven't cut my hair since I think March.
I grew
maybe February. Oh, good for you. Oh man, maybe
just really wanted to keep the girls away.
Yeah,
it's working way too well.
Maybe I should do a mullet.
I think you should.
That would absolutely. I think the family and the girlfriend would.
You gotta ask Michelle. Yeah.
Okay. No. I already know. They'll love it. They'll absolutely love it. Oh yeah, what's up, Cocktails of Calamity? We got Michael Maddalini in the chat. Thank you, my friend.
Michael Maddalini's here.
Yeah. do you know yeah. No, dude, he's got a great podcast. He actually does a couple of shows. He's got 3 shows, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure if he does a 3rd show still. Can't remember. But he's got the Calamity and Cocktails of Calamity podcast, which is like they had a really interesting
what's his favorite cocktail?
City Planner on the other day.
Cocktail?
Oh man, I don't drink much anymore.
Me neither. I actually quit.
Yeah, good for you. Good for you. I mean, I'll have a glass of wine here and there, but I mean, I think if in my prime, my go-to cocktail when I was really slinging it was probably, like a old-fashioned.
I never had a prime, but the cocktail that I liked was a Negroni.
You are a constant prime, man. You are a constant prime. Yeah. So yeah, enough bloating ourselves up. How are you doing? Man. How I'm glad you're here.
I was great up until last Sunday.
Why? What happened last Sunday?
I don't know. But since last Sunday, the Sunday before this last one, I was probably doing the worst I've been in a year and a half. Yeah. And I tried to, like, how I think. I tried to, isolate whatever it could be. It could be a mix of the fact that it is not like it is 24/7 rain here. I'm surprised that the suicide rate isn't 900%. I'm in Oregon, by the way.
Yeah, that's So it rains. So it truly rains that much,
dude. It's insane. There's a theory that like why the best music comes from Great Britain and from Seattle is because it just rains so much that there's nothing else you can do but just meet up with your mates and go play music and do drugs or whatever. So then you end up with like like Soundgarden, or I'm not sure if they're from Seattle, but Nirvana and all this stuff because there's like nothing else to do.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, it's like sort of misery creates great art. I think sometimes.
Yeah.
We got Mike lived in Oregon, and by the way, he also I forgot to finish that sentence. But he finished. He does a great show also on the debrief.org, which is just a fantastic website for future tech and UAP and UFO information. If you guys don't know about it, check it out. So yeah, we've got. Check this one out. The mullet's dope.
Thank you. Well, you're the only one. You're the only one that thinks so.
No, I think it also is dope. So
think of a girl that thinks so.
Dude, I know you're lying to me. I know women see that mullet and they go
bonkers. Oh, he must be a breadwinner.
They go bonkers.
He must have a stable job.
Mullets are a sign of stability, without a doubt. I actually used to have a mullet back in the day. A mullet-esque type thing. It was more like a hardcore faux hawk, but it was a mohawk almost at one point.
I want to see that.
Oof, man. Yeah, I don't know if I can look up the photo now, but it's out there. I promise next time you're on, I'll show it to you. Just remind me before we come on, and I will find you. And I got one in particular at Fenway. I don't know why. My hair was just absolutely perfect that day, and I took a picture right in front of home base, and I swear to you, I mean, nice. It wouldn't fit in the frame. The poof.
Oh, that's a nice 6-incher.
Yeah, it was hardcore.
Yeah.
But now being 40, some men would literally kill.
Being 40? Do you feel 40?
No.
Yeah.
No, wait, hold on a second. 39? I take that. No, I take that back. I absolutely 100% take that back. I just redid this entire studio with my girlfriend over the weekend. Totally 40-year-old move. Yeah. And I'm still hurting. It's Wednesday night.
Okay. Yeah.
It's Wednesday night. That's how I feel 40. And every other way, I don't feel 40.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's I feel like I wear it well. At least I'm not crazy bald.
Yes.
Or no offense, Mike. Mike is completely bald. I mean, but I would not look good bald, whereas Mike wears bald well. Exactly.
Yeah.
I remember. Do you remember when Bruce Willis went bald?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a shock to the system for me.
Sure.
But once I saw it, I'm like, looks good. I like it.
Yeah, I shaved my head once, and it looked like a deflated soccer ball.
Yeah. Fair enough. Mine looks like probably a deformed bowling ball, and on the far end of the alley, sure. The balls where Mongols put their hands into. That's what my head looks like when it's okay. So we're gonna be getting into some interesting things tonight. I mean, and yeah, by the way, congrats to Mike. They did a live show of the Mars landing, which was really, really cool. So yeah, and by the way, you guys, we're almost at 600 followers. I'm trying to get over 600 tonight. Let's see if we can do it during the live stream, huh? That's an ambitious ask. 11 followers is ambitious, I know, but who knows? I mean, you don't know until you ask, right? Okay, so share the live stream, I guess is what I'm saying. So Jake, we were talking a couple of days ago, and you were like, "Man, I want to come on your show." I'm like, "Really?" And by the way, if you guys don't remember, Jake, he was probably you were the first guest on the show, but we had to hold your show a couple of weeks because of some contract negotiations you were going through. And so I think it ended up being like the 4th or 5th or 6th show, something like that in the actual order. But you were technically the first guest on this show. So if you want to check out that interview, we talked about the CRADA agreement at the time that was happening, which I don't know if you remember. It was that agreement between Tom DeLonge's organization and the military to study metamaterials, these metals, right? But nothing, at least as of right now, I don't think anything significant has come out of that, especially now that TTSA is almost non-existent.
They need to bring Travis Barker on board, and then it'll become something. He's the reason for Blink. He's the reason for Angels and Airways.
There's no rhythm in this organization, right. and that is exactly why it failed. It's essentially it's just a media production company now. They're just making movies and music, having to do and books with the media. So, but either way, I mean, it's still content for us to take a look at, so I'll check it out. But you were saying, and it kind of took me off guard. You were like, "Hey man, I want to come on the show." I was like, "Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'm intrigued to know why." And I also wanted to talk about your new adventures here as training as a pilot, because we've got some interesting cockpit recording that I'm going to play for everybody. And I'm sure you haven't heard it. So I'd like to get your initial thoughts now that you've been in a plane and you understand the responsibility of what it is to be, and sort of where your mind is at when you're flying a plane and things like that. So yeah, do you have any thoughts on that?
Let's start, man. You pitched me a question, or we could play the recording, or if you want to hear about what I'm doing up here, that's cool too.
Yeah. No, let's. What did you want to talk about? Let's start there.
I wanted to talk about Congress.
Okay.
And I want to talk about whether we're actually ready for what's about to come. Because I have a feeling, based on a little bit of data as well, that we are in a sleep state right now. We're at 9/10, and 9/11 is about to happen. Like, no one remembers 9/10.
Right.
But we were in a sleep state then. And after 9/11 happened, but if someone told you on 9/10 what 9/11 was going to look like, they would say, nah, you're crazy. Like, a bunch of people are going to hijack planes, blah, blah. I think we're now back in a sleep state. And I don't think that Congress is ready to deal with what's about to happen.
All right. Well, before we go into a sleep state, let's preface this conversation with your background and your education. And because I want people to know that you're not a nutball, essentially.
Oh, I am a nutball.
No, you are a nutball, but
you're
also, but it's a controlled madness. You are a controlled madness. I love your mind. I love the way you think. I think you're a really smart dude, and you're one of you're one of the better conversations I've had in this town. And that's Los Angeles, by the way. But I just quickly, if you can, just tell folks where you went to school, what you studied.
Born and raised in Boston. I was 100% of the non-white population there. I have a bachelor's in macroeconomics, bachelor's in political science, minor in history. Then I used to work on political campaigns as early as John Kerry when I was 16. I just went to the rallies and all that stuff. I remember when Barack Obama was coming up 2 years before he won the White House. My life was economics. My life was government. And then I very purposefully decided to take a break at 22 just to see how like the apathetic people deal with government. Like, if you're not tuning into like the 24-hour news cycle, if you don't know who your congressman is, if you don't know much about, econ, how you see government, how you see the world, how much you care and how much it affects you. And that was my time in Los Angeles when I just shut off, government and all that stuff altogether.
Right.
But my mind, for some reason, like, everyone has a natural tending towards something. For some reason, as a kid, I don't know why, it's like the weirdest thing ever. My mind was, my mind led itself easily to politics, geopolitics, C-SPAN at 13 years old. I'm not sure why. but and I remember, my mind cannot forget the trends that I see happening, and also what's been happening in the past, and also just what you read from the history books. And there's an obvious cycle that's happening, and it's happening again. And I hope it's not too boastful to say, but I feel like this is my second political cycle, where a lot of my friends are kind of going through it for the first time, which is fine because they're supposed to be going through it for the first time, because now they're maybe 29, 30, 31, 32. They're going to have a wife, they're going to have kids, they're going to have a house, they're going to have, so now they care about it. So they're going through kind of their first political cycle. But I feel like I've seen it twice now, and I know what's about to come. I mean, I think I know what's about to come. Like we can make accurate, assessments here.
Yeah.
And one thing that keeps nagging at me is Congress is a scam.
Yeah.
Congress is a giant open scam.
Yeah.
And no one's talking about that. And it's so hard to make changes to that scam, because in order to change Congress itself, you're asking these 535 members to vote against themselves, which they won't do.
Right.
So the more it becomes a scam, the more we're unleashing this, beast that we can never, put back into the box.
Okay. So, man, holy shit. I can't wait to get into this conversation, because this is fascinating. So quickly, I understand what you're saying by you're going through your second cycle. I feel like I'm going through maybe my third. The first was
cool.
The first was because I also got into, for whatever reason, not whatever reason, my stepfather was very politically active within the Republican Party. And so naturally, I would get excited about it. And of course, my step brother at the time was very pro Democrat. He's very Bill Clinton. So there were really fierce arguments in the house, and I was always fascinated as to, who was right. Was it my younger brother? Was it my older dad? And so like the Ross Perot, the George Bush, Bill Clinton debates, I remember those vividly in my mind.
Yeah.
Dan Quayle and, like all of these crazy politicians. And then I graduated high school. I moved to New York City, went to college for 12, 13 minutes, moved to New York City, and then started, it was a culture shock for me to move there because of all the different, cultures and people. It's a melting pot. It was the first time I was
Miami
really
to New York.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Fort Lauderdale, really. Like, I my high school years and my maturing years were more in Fort Lauderdale than they were in Miami. Miami is a culture melting pot. But I didn't grow up within that system as a lot of folks from Miami did. But I have family in Miami. I have, very deep ties to that, but I just didn't go to school there. So it was, like there weren't a lot of gay kids or black kids. I was one of the few Latino kids in my school, because my parents were in the mindset of, well, the farther away we get from the brown people, the better it'll be for our children. And, I think hopefully that mindset's sort of reversing itself, but regardless, anyway, we would talk a lot about politics. And then so in those years, I was very libertarian. I would follow a lot of what Ron Paul was saying. And I just the things that he was calling out. For example, he was the first presidential candidate to ever call out the prison industrial complex and actually call it that on a debate stage. Like that was, when I saw that, I was like, holy shit. And then when he talks about the military spending and how much, it takes from all of these social, benefits that people are trying to take advantage of. And the reason why they're lackluster is because our foreign policy is just insane. It's the spending is out of control.
And also the worst part about that is, can't you say that we haven't won a war since World War II?
Yes. You absolutely can say that. It's been nothing but
Let's
continuous
go over the wars.
I think yes. You lost Korean. You lost
parallel.
Yep, but not only that, you lost
you left them there.
The overtaking of Iran, and then losing that to the Shah. Like,
oh my God!
Like you've got Russian, the Afghan border. There's so many.
And right now, we are in the longest war in U.S. history. Right now, 16 years, I think more than 16 years now. We're the longest war
since 9/11, since September 11, 2001.
What happened?
I think
it's so confusing to me.
I think it's pretty simple to see what happened. I mean, it's let's bomb things overseas. And then get the contracts to rebuild the schools, the bridges, the roads that we bombed. And we're like making money hand over fist. And look, I think it's a power grab. I think it's a power grab for the last oil on the planet. And I don't understand, like, I'm sure there are much deeper things that I don't understand from a security state that go into these decisions. But when you look at it from just a citizen standpoint, you're like, what the fuck is going? Like, why are we in Africa? Why are we in the Sudan? Why are we messing around in the politics in South America? Why are we in Afghanistan? Why are we still in Iraq? Why do we have troops in Germany or on the border in Korea? Like, that's insane.
See, I actually disagree with you on this. I like that we're in all those places. I like that America has a hand in fucking everything. But I want us to finish the damn job. And they don't finish the job, which now leads to suspicion that the goal was never what they said it was going to be. Right. That the goal was never to just, remove Saddam, because now they've created one of the largest power vacuums in the Middle East, which created, ISIS, which is one of the worst things I've ever seen in the annals of history. Yeah, I'm just confused if the goals that we're setting out are actually our goals, or if there's like a tacit thing that they're not.
I think again, it's a military industrial complex thing. It's
Eisenhower warned us about.
It is this constant just cycle of new toys that they get approved every single year, and then billions of dollars are spent. Like how much does one Scud missile cost?
What a
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know, absolutely.
Like how is it possible that we still have a program that works on making a nuclear bomb? Like we've already figured that out. We've made them as big as you could possibly make them. Why are we still making nuclear bombs?
I know, but also here's the other thing. World War III is going to be fought on our phone. I believe World War III, when we saw what Mohammed bin Salman did to Khashoggi, what he did to Jeff Bezos, he had a virus-based personal phone. Jeff Bezos hit that link and that started spying on Jeff Bezos, and that's how the leak came out about him having an affair or something. That was directly from NBS to the CEO of Amazon. If those two are not immune from this, are you and I? We're not.
There's no
World War III is going to be fought on our phones.
No, I agree with you, man. I would not be shocked if not one bullet or bomb is dropped.
Right.
You know,
and we are not ready for it. They have us distracted with so many things. We're not ready for it. There's a calculated effort to keep us distracted and to keep us dumb so that this higher 1 to 10% can just operate. We just happen to be living in their world. Yeah,
but it's a dangerous game. I feel like if that's the game they're playing, we don't know who these people are, but if that's the game,
we know who these people are. Yeah, we know who these people are.
No, it's true. I can't argue that. We definitely have a good idea of who these people are. That's for sure. But it's a dangerous game they're playing because here's the thing, and we'll talk about his comment here in a second. Yeah, the moment you take away from a middle class person the ability to buy milk at the grocery store, like look what's happening in Texas. You know, like what's happening in Texas and sort of the shit show that happened with food. Like people ran out of food and
goddamn scam, right? Yeah. How perfect was that Ted Cruz went to Cancun? Oh, my heart soared like the eagle's nest. I was like, I cannot even make up these examples. Like that's the joke example that like a late night comedian would say. But he did it. That little sniveling ass.
So let's talk about what Preston here says. We need less government, more freedom, and individual liberty.
Yeah.
What do you think about that thing?
So I like to play devil's advocate. Let's do it for the sake of this.
Well, before you play devil's advocate, that last comment you said was very George Carlin-esque, and in the theory that, you know what, I'm just gonna sit back, not partake in this game and watch it burn itself, because watching it burn is where I get my comedy. It's where it's, you know, like just what you just said about Ted Cruz going to Cancun, how that warmed your heart. You know, like it's like I know chaos.
I know, and I agree with you there, but Luis, I like so agreed with you there, literally up until like I think a few like weeks to months ago when I was like, you know what? The longer we do that joke of like asking the average pedestrian where Iraq is on the map and like they don't even know where that is, that's not fucking funny anymore.
Right.
It's not fucking funny because what that joke leads to is 100,000 to 1 million Iraqi children dying. Right. And the grossest part of that stat is not the number. It's the range that they don't know from 100,000 to a million. They cannot get the number right. What a disgusting thing humans are doing to one another. My mind, for some reason, cannot forget these examples. And I hope most of our audience as well, but my mind will not let up on it.
Look,
stop being funny to me finally. Fuck.
But the problem is it also has stopped being funny to me. But it's like you can only scream about it so much before it's like, okay, well, do I run for office? You know what I mean? Like, do I run for office? And it's like, I think a person like you has the education. You are the perfect person to run for. And this is what we were talking about earlier. And I think this is what sort of the what happens, because we started talking about the salaries, about the position in your district, where if you ran, what the salary for that guy is, and it's insane. Like it's inside of a county where the median income is almost at poverty level. Man, this is why
Can I
fucking
pitch that to your
love
audience
you.
before we
Yeah,
move
please. Yeah, go.
Hi guys, I'm Jake Matthews. Nice to see you. I am currently in a district. It's the 4th district of Oregon. The main 2 towns are Eugene and Corvallis. It's where OSU is and the University of Oregon is. It's one of the poorest districts in the state of Oregon. The per capita, which is like the average wealth of the average person, is about $23,000. Before I answer this, can you guess how much your average congressman makes? So senator or congressman.
Oh,
3,
I know.
2,
I would say $125,000 somewhere.
They
in
make
that range.
$174,000 every year. The guy
Insane.
who's the congressman here, his name is Peter DeFazio. He's been here for 34 years, longer than I've been alive. And over that time, he's collected now $5.5 million. But his constituency on average makes $23,000. When did we allow our congressman to go there? And why isn't the rule this? If you want to represent this district, you get paid exactly what the per capita is from the district that you're representing. That way there is an economic incentive for you to bring jobs there, for you to bring high-paying jobs there, and with that, your salary goes up. The congressman from Seattle, the per capita there is, I think, $67,000 because of all the high-tech jobs. So she should be making $67,000. So she's getting a reward for bringing in better jobs. Look at that.
This is him, by the way.
Yeah. So what I realized is that this is an open scam. Dude, I've been asking people around the district, do you know Peter DeFazio? Do you know who Peter DeFazio is? And I hate using anecdotal evidence, but it's all that I can
Right.
It's all that I can go on now. But I've asked probably now 200 people. Not a single human has ever heard of this man. And so what I realized is he loves that the district is apathetic. He loves that they do not know what's going on because he just keeps sneaking in with that incumbency advantage, and he has a lock on it. And it's just a job for him, man. It's the same as being a bartender. It's the same as being a lawyer. It's just a job where he doesn't have to do anything, and he is making fat stacks. When did we allow this to happen? When did we allow there to be no term limits? I'm so confused as to why this is how our congressmen operate.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you right now, that is a fantastic idea to put not limits. Like if you're willing to take a $23,000 paycheck to work at Congress, you could work there as long as you want, as far as
right. Okay. Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Too.
Like
the reason why we love teachers, by the way. The reason why we love high school teachers, middle school teachers, is because they're making $44,000 a year. They're dealing with a class of 30 kids at the height of their, hormonal stuff, going through crazy stuff at home, and they're trying to help them learn a new subject. It is one of the hardest jobs in the world. Are they getting paid $100,000 for it? They're getting paid $44,000, and they have to take the work home at night and do all the. That's why we love teachers, because they just want to do it. Like they want to help. Mm-hmm. And that's why. So why don't we feel that way about our Congress? Why is the rate of approval for our Congress consistently 20%? There is a way to get around this.
I think the biggest issue, man, honestly, if I had to point the finger at one thing, it would be our bought and paid for news media. Like they prop these congressmen and I don't know if I want to use any names here because people get offended so easily. But
offend them.
Like these congressmen, like I love the energy of an Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, wonderful human being, probably something that I would aspire my daughter to look at and be. But when it came to putting pressure on her constituents to force a vote on Medicare for all, she didn't do it. She folded, and we're making our elected representatives celebrities. Yeah. As opposed to holding their fucking feet to the fire and saying, why aren't you doing what you said you were going to do? You have a progressive platform. These are progressive ideals that your fellow progressives are encouraging you, begging you to do. And you don't do it because you want to cater to the establishment. Like she could have forced, if Nancy Pelosi, she could have forced Nancy Pelosi to put a vote on Medicare for all. And at the very worst case scenario, if they couldn't get a vote on it, then it would have forced a new vote for the Speaker of the House of Representatives, which would have put really weird pressures and situations on especially Nancy Pelosi. But they didn't do that. They didn't do it. And worst case scenario, you get a vote on everyone, how they're going to vote on Medicare for all. So that way in the future, you can organize and you can do a grassroots campaign to make sure that the constituents in the right districts know that the person who voted against what you want, which is a universalized healthcare system, voted against it.
Which now begs the question this though, Louise.
Yeah.
Do they want this sort of impasse just to keep their jobs going? Like, are they actually like enjoying?
I mean, when you're making $175,000 a year, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then my other question is this, and I like hesitate to word it this simply just because I haven't like thought it through enough on my own. But I'll just say it now to see what everyone thinks. When the vote for the presidency and all this stuff comes to about 49-51, 51-49, blah, 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 there's something a little bit concerning about that number.
Yes.
And I'll tell you why. If we're in a room with 100 people and I asked all 100 people, hey, do you want me to murder that baby right there? Most likely the vote's going to be 100-0 no, or maybe 99-1 by some crazy guy, right? But the vote's going to be very lopsided. But if I ask the room, do you want me to make crispy bacon or slightly less crispy bacon? The vote might be 49-51 because it's not that different after all. So now I'm wondering if, like, is there really that much of a difference with Republicans and Democrats? Or are they two sides of the same coin here?
They're absolutely 100%.
And are the people in charge enjoying that this is like the...
I don't know if they're enjoying it. I don't know if they're enjoying it. I think... they are. I think the mindset of these folks is just like the mindset of the boss at a factory that knows all of his employees are getting underpaid, that they're all being overworked, and doesn't say anything or report anything. Or like the guy who lives next door to the guy who lives next door to a married couple, and you can hear him beating his wife. And you go in, like, you're in your brain, you're like, do I call the cops? Or of course you call the cops. Yes, you call them.
Here is the tragic end to what you are now saying. If you know enough history, which I know you do, every empire has a rise. They have a nice time at the top, and they have a fall. And whether America realizes it now, we are being preyed upon by these other countries who are loving. They are loving that we are this divided, because while this is happening, there is a wolf at the door. And they are, I believe the Chinese GDP is about to overtake the US by 2028. That is a disgusting stat. As an economist, that is a horrendous number to see. And I don't know when that happened, but that's why I feel like we're asleep now. And Russia, the BRIC nations are Brazil, Russia, India, China. They are building themselves up. They are, unifying and watching us split each other up. And that's why I'm like, you know what? This is like on pace for like another like horrendous thing to happen. And we have a Congress, we have a White House that is not ready to respond. They don't know how to respond to cyber attacks when half of them use a flip phone. Chuck Schumer uses a flip phone. And it's like, buddy, like I know, okay, so what's ironic here is that like our founding fathers, they like designed it this way because they wanted the process to be slow. And that makes sense. And I do appreciate that. But right now we have things here that weren't available to them back then. And we need to now make Congress much more streamlined.
Yes.
Much more fast in their ability to respond and much more accurate.
Well, here's the only scary part I have, the purpose of government at some point is to not be fast. Like, it has to be slow, because sometimes these fast decisions lead into things that we're not clearly thinking about, but I agree with what you're saying. Like this idea, like Congress should be modernized. It should be met with the 21st century, not the 17th century.
Right.
Yeah, dude. No, it's a scary place. And here's another thing that I loved what Ron Paul said: the biggest threat to national security is not going to be a bomb or a fleet of ships outside of our harbors. Right. It's going to be the fall of our dollar. You know, like the second our dollar is worth less than, Chinese currency or Russian currency or any other currency, it's game over. Because when we're no longer the number one, I mean, our export is cash. It is money. Like, it's one of our biggest exports. And, once the gig's up and it's, I don't know what the number's going to be, but the debt keeps, I just love how I just loved it.
And so much of that debt is owed to foreign banks.
Yes, foreign Chinese banks specifically.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Well, but the thing, it is hilarious to me that it doesn't matter if it's Obama or President Donald Trump, former President Donald Trump. Both of them claimed that the economies were kicking ass and awesome and coming back, but yet the debt keeps going up by $3 trillion every year. So how is it that the economy's kicking so much ass, but yet we're almost, I haven't even looked at the number in probably 6 months, but last I looked, it was probably around 23 trillion.
Okay.
Like something insane. Just like it could be 14 or 18. I'm guessing here. I think the last time I saw it, it was like 14 or 18.
Right.
So like and the problem is people can't wrap their brain around the concept of a trillion. Let me ask you this. Do you know how many years a trillion seconds is back in time? If we went back in time 1 trillion seconds, do you know how many years that would be?
I think I already know the answer to this, but go ahead, hit me with that. Just because someone told me.
32,000 years ago.
Really?
32,000 years ago. We're drawing on caves, okay?
Yeah.
1 trillion seconds ago. We add $3 trillion of debt a year. So this idea of taxing billionaires and trillionaires more, I feel like you could not only tax Amazon, you could seize it and it wouldn't pay for 2 months of our debt.
Yeah. Do you want me to be an ass or
no? I want you to give me your degrees. I want you to give me your expertise on this.
The jury is still out with me personally on how to tax the rich.
Yeah,
there's a thing that you learn that I studied in economics, which is probably going to make everyone puke. But $1 billion to me is not the same as $1 billion to Jeff Bezos.
Right.
Simply because he has the resources and the knowledge on how to use that to maybe build up a company to help distribute goods, to go pay his taxes, and to go employ thousands and thousands of people. That being said, what the specifics are and how much we should tax them, yes, that should be adjusted, but I just can't comment on what that would look like yet or how much without having more data in front of me.
I can say this. It definitely
saying tax the rich is not an answer to me.
No, absolutely. Me neither. No. You're agreeing with me. I'm saying you could. I'm saying, look, Amazon should be paying more than zero. That is 100% for sure. Right. I think we could all agree on that. But what I'm saying is you could seize Amazon. You could you could seize every company on the Fortune 500 company, and you wouldn't cover our budget for the year, is my point. So this idea of taxing these people is going to fix everything is not the answer. I think we need to cut our military spending by 40% and redirect those funds into more social programs, education, healthcare, all the things that especially education. because, like you said, if you can't point out where Morocco is on a map, that fucking joke leads to 100,000 dead Iraqis.
Well, a few things here, Louis,
in a flawed foreign policy.
Right. Well, a few things here, if I may.
Yeah.
And this is why the initial question that I wanted to ask was, is the goal that we are setting out to do actually our goal? Or is there like a tacit goal that the people in charge are actually working on? What I mean by that is this. If you say, cut our military budget, that is, first of all, political suicide in this country. Political suicide. Okay, fine. I don't mind it being political suicide. Whatever, who cares? Next, if you say, we should work on educating our students. Now the question comes to mind. I go, or is our secret goal to not educate our students? Is our secret goal to keep the masses dumb so that they'll never be smart enough to know how to comment on this? So is there a secret campaign to keep us, satiated with a pacifier in our mouth on these social media apps, watching our shows and never really knowing how to comment on a higher level about these things that are actually happening? You and I care about 100,000 Iraqi children. But if the average American doesn't, then they go, that's just collateral damage. That's 100,000 Iraqis. You and I are saying this from a heart where we're still like idealists.
Right.
I'm not sure that Paul Wolfowitz, when he saddled up next to George W. Bush in Camp David by the fire and he whispered into his ears, we got to go get Saddam, which is how it all started. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure he has 100,000 Iraqi children in his heart.
No.
He's a 75-year-old, curmudgeon.
No, absolutely not. But I mean, but now we get to the core question is, what do you do about it? Do you run and try to change it from within? And we've seen that. And not to mention your salary, which is $175,000 a year. But you make money from public speaking engagements. If you're popular, you make money from TV appearances, from book sales, from all sorts of things. I mean, look at the Clintons. They were raising $1 million per speech. Like it was crazy.
Which I think isn't that bad, by the way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, I don't think you should be a public. I mean, like, this is kind of dicey.
Because it actually might incentivize you to be a more.
Well, I just don't like when the president is selling a brand while he's the president of the United States.
I mean, that's running for office, though. Running for office is a brand. That's why Michael Dukakis lost.
But Michael Dukakis doesn't have an airline or a steak brand or a casino.
Okay,
you know what I mean? Like I'm saying, when you're a politician and you've got an Etsy shop, like I don't know, that just that to me is a conflict of interest. Like, if people want to independently make their own fan appreciation or art or whatever, then let them go for it. But I don't think your hands should be in that, especially at the salary point that you're at right now.
So then, Luis, let's look at the wheel that's happening here, because we have to break the wheel. If you want to really make change, this is why I mentioned, I feel like I'm going through like my second cycle. You said you feel like you're going through your third. It's like, I know what's coming. You know what's about to come. Most people don't, maybe, but you and I know what's coming. How do we break the wheel? The first thing is to pass the fairness doctrine. The fairness doctrine disallows broadcasting companies to be biased.
Yes.
We used to have that. And that's why, Walter Cronkite would report the JFK assassination without bias. But now if you watch, Rachel Maddow or Tucker Carlson, they have extreme bias. But you're not allowed to have that bias if you pass the fairness doctrine. You will get sued as a company and you'll be taken out of the FCC. They need to pass the fairness doctrine. They need to lower the salaries for the people so they match their constituency. You have to have term limits. And you got to break the wheel, Louis.
Well, I think also maybe end Citizens United, which allows corporations to essentially be people, and donate as if they donate to political campaigns in much bigger quantities than regular people.
I will tell you this much, and this may sound laughable to people, but I'll just say it. If you are really going to make an effort to try to break the wheel, if you are honestly going to try to break the wheel instead of just, becoming a part of the system, wear a Kevlar vest and carry a sidearm. Wear a Kevlar vest and carry a sidearm. because the more that I read about it, the more that I gather data, the powers that be, their favorite tool is assassination. And it's a perfect tool. You have a 24-hour news cycle that doesn't care. You have people distracted. So if you assassinate somebody who's actually trying to make a change, they'll be forgotten about within a week. Look at what happened to a Navalny. Somebody just wrote that, on your thing. They tried to poison him through his underwear, and he almost died. And if he did die, no one would care. And now he didn't die, and people here still don't know how to discuss what's going on there. I mean, what a goddamn... He's the definition of a hero. He's the definition of a modern day hero.
Well, the thing
is assassination. They love it. They love assassinating people.
But the problem, here's what I see the biggest problem, especially with the liberal side of things. They don't have a voice. There isn't that leader. There isn't that JFK. There isn't that person that galvanizes both sides.
You know why?
Why?
Because here's the problem with liberals. Here's the problem with people that are smart or woke or like whatever. Okay, they fracture. So there isn't a united, a tenacious voice there. They fracture because now they start micromanaging micromanaging the message. The good thing about Republicans or the conservative movements is there's a broad movement and it says that, we are all united as one behind our guns, behind this and this, and this is what we like. But the liberal movement will always fracture, and then they'll find micro things to fracture about. So that's like the hardest part about the liberal movement, is that they're facing like an uphill battle because they're looking for change. Conservatives are not looking for change. Okay, liberals are always looking for change, and change is a scary thing.
Right.
If you had conservatives in charge since the start of the country, there wouldn't be civil rights, there wouldn't be gay rights, there wouldn't be anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's only
what's hilarious to me is the Republican Party started out freeing the slaves and now have flopped over, and the Democrats, which were pro-slavery, are now the party of the labor movement or that woke culture or whatever you want to call it.
In that show, I only watched the first episode, House of Cards, I think it is.
Yeah.
What's the one with that rapist guy, Kevin Spacey or whatever? He said something to the screaming man outside. He said there was like a screaming homeless guy outside of the Capitol steps or something, and he said, "No one can hear you."
Yes.
And I think that is a really important message. You mean almost nothing until you win the seat. So have a united front until you win the seat. The reason why we're talking about AOC is because she won the seat. But if she just ran for office, she lost, she doesn't have a free microphone. The smart thing about Donald Trump is he won the seat. He has a free microphone for 4 years.
For 4 years.
If you're a Democrat or you're a liberal or whatever, put aside your small differences and win the fucking seat. Yeah. When you get there, you can start doing things.
Right. No, I agree, but that's the thing, is that Democratic front is so splintered. When you've got, the thing about the Republicans, whether people like to admit it or not, when they move as one. And there is no breaking the line. Doesn't matter who's in their district or how it affects their constituency. They don't break the line. And if Democrats would just learn and grow a spine and put some gumption behind their words, some temerity, maybe some of these social programs that people are screaming for would be taken a little more seriously. But they're not, because you can't even get, God, poor Bernie Sanders, like the poor bastard, like he's been trying for 40, 50 years to get people to listen to this.
I watched some old debates of him back in like the 80s, and this guy is just on message, the whole thing.
And that's what I love. That's honestly the first thing I look for in a politician is their consistency. Especially if they have a philosophy or a belief system that they subscribe to. So that way I know where they're coming from. And even if I disagree with the philosophy or the way of thinking, I know, okay, well, at least this is their viewpoint, and maybe we can find some common ground there.
Well, Luis, shouldn't we just say that this is what the American DNA is? Not that it's a good thing or like a bad thing, but maybe this is just what the American DNA is. We're a highly successful warmongering state who is cutthroat, but we are doing very, very well. Maybe that's just what our identity is. Because if you have something like you educate all the children and you reduce our arms, you end up having India. So
right,
with India, you have a country with a lot of smart people, and they're all a bunch of pacifists.
Yeah.
And that's like the Indian identity, maybe. But maybe this is just who we are. And if you agree with that, the next question should be this: what's going to happen when the oldest generation dies out and is replaced by, us?
Right.
Are we going to be moving to a more, kumbaya sort of way of, behaving, or what?
Yeah.
The fact that
I've always questioned that. What's going to happen when these baby boomers are gone?
Right.
And I thought honestly, the last, when Trump won, I think I told you, because we were in the same room the night it happened. And I could just feel the room slowly being sucked. And I remember telling you that night, I'm like, listen, Donald Trump's not going to be the worst scar on the face of Lady Liberty. And man, it ended pretty ugly. But I still think George W. Bush is way worse president. Way worse than Donald Trump.
I'm so glad you said that, because I do love asking that question to people.
Yeah. And everybody will tell you Trump.
Right.
And if you fight, and if you push back even a little bit, they paint you into a corner and you're a racist. It's like, dude, I'm a Cuban, I'm a first generation Cuban American who's one generation removed from guns being pointed at their faces by a fascist dictator, a real fascist dictator, and their land's taken away and told to get on a boat and get the fuck out.
Well, this is what I mean by the first political cycle versus the second. I feel like those people that you're mentioning there, this is their first political cycle.
Right.
So they maybe weren't paying attention during the George W. Bush thing. George W. Bush murdered so many people, guys. It's not funny.
It's not.
It is not.
And his policies still kill people.
Are they here? It's like, that's not funny, dude.
No, but not only that, his policies still kill people today. Especially, for example, just the drone policies. Like Bush started that program, Obama perfected it, and Trump just increased it. So like it is just, it's a failed state. And that's just going back to this comment on the screen. At what point do you take that George Carlin attitude and just say, you know what? I'm just going to sit back and watch it burn, because you want to know something, it's going to burn anyway. Whether you run for Congress, whether you win the seat, and this is it's a crazy place, especially for me to even be dribbling out of my mouth, because I never used to think this way. But he's right. It's a small club, and you and I are not invited to it. It's just, we're not.
So Luis, then you're at a crossroads, because I struggle with that question all the time.
All the time.
Sure. Look, I love to sail. I love to do all these things. And if I was completely selfish, I would go live on a boat and just go fishing and just have that life. Like, I love that life. I want to do it right now when I'm in my prime, or whatever. But these images and this stuff keeps nagging at me.
Yeah.
And isn't great leadership the person that is going to change that is going to get in that fight?
But here's the thing. It's like, well,
mental health is deteriorating, seeing all of it.
Yeah.
But maybe I can just be selfish, and just be like a regular person. Like, I want to feel like mentally happier. I think about the guy who ran the White Helmets campaign in Syria, and they found him dead. You know about him? Mm-hmm. Like, he spent his life just, he's like an angel on earth. And then somebody either, killed him, or he committed suicide. Like, he could go live on a sailboat too. I do struggle with that, Luis. I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's the thing. We're not going to figure it out tonight. That's for sure. But the conversation, here's one thing I know is for sure. In the John Adams did not want he did not want to be president of the United States. And I think that is a quality that one must have when running for a public office like this. They must not have the desire for power. And John Adams wasn't interested in power. He was really interested in policy. He was a policy nutball. And And yeah, man, I mean, it's in the 17th century, the conversations being had around the dinner table about independence and politics, even if they got heated and argumentative, which I think is just an American trait. I don't think you can talk politics without getting a little fucking snippy. And especially if you disagree, but the conversation is being had. And it's being had at I think a pretty intellectual level. Whereas today, Americans have lost the art form of discussing politics like this. They don't know how to do it. I'm going to listen to MSNBC and Rachel Maddow and get my talking point and spit it out at the guy that I really dislike. And maybe that guy is counteracting those points with good information, and you're just shut off to it because it's not what Rachel Maddow's saying or whoever your favorite personality. It doesn't matter. Pick a side. It's I think just harping back on what you said with that, forgetting the name of the act, but to remove that power from media to be so biased is the fairness doctrine. I think that, and campaign finance reform. I mean, there are things that I think right now, both of those things are on a progressive agenda. If you look at like a Katie Porter or Nina Turner specifically. Nina Turner is incredibly progressive. Like, she's talking about, I mean, look, if you want to get, for me, super aggressive would be talking about $25 an hour right now, because that's what would match the GDP we're at right now. People should be getting $25 an hour. They should be getting 2 weeks paid vacation. They should get maternity leave. They should get health care when you're putting that kind of hours. I don't care if it's McDonald's. I don't care if it's a 401k Fortune 500 company. Americans pay enough taxes for those things to happen. It's the problem is your tax dollars are going to the wrong places, right. And there's and the leaders that we've elected are not holding those dollars in those places accountable because they're cushy. Those jobs are cushy. They're comfortable, and they're limitless. You can do it forever. So, it's a very uphill battle.
The average constituent is feeling.
Eric Martin. I wonder if this is the Eric Martin we both know.
I think it is. We can figure it out tonight. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Do we have time?
I mean, we got as much time as you want. Here's what I'm going to suggest, though, because I noticed you had both earbuds in your ear, and I don't want them to die. So pop one out and charge it. So that way, if we do go long, you've got an extra one ready to go. It is. Okay, great, dude. Eric, welcome to the show, dude. I'm so happy you're here.
Hi, Eric.
We're the first hour of this show has been heavily I don't think political. I don't think it's been dividing. We still have about the same amount of people watching that we started, so that's good. Just want to say, just say hi to Eric. Want to say hi to Rodrigo, Preston, Derek. By the way, guys, we're going to be taking phone calls at the end, so I'm going to put the link to this chat that we're in right now, so you guys can call in and give us your opinion, give us your thoughts, and we'll discuss it. So get ready for that. I'm not sure how long this show is going to go. I didn't think we'd go this long on just this topic, but it's been so damn interesting. I don't want to stop it. So we're going to continue, and we're going to I promise you we're going to get to the cockpit recording. I promise you we're going to get to more info on the big phone home, and we're also going to get to your calls. So don't go anywhere. Stick around, because I think you guys are enjoying this conversation. So how do we figure it out tonight? What do we do?
Okay. So many years ago,
By the way, we've got 9 people watching. So whatever you propose, it's got a damn good chance of happening. All right. And by the way, if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. We're trying to get over 600 subscribers tonight. Welcome. By the way, I think I'm going to start calling myself the Cutoff King, because I have a real nasty tendency of cutting people off. It's bad.
It's a good thing, though. Yeah, but it keeps it going.
I think it keeps it going too. I mean, I'm just because as soon as you say something and I think of something, I want to hit it right away, so I don't forget about it. Right. You go. You go. But
get out of the way.
Okay, I'm sorry. So Massachusetts, you were saying.
Okay. let's talk about innovation in America. Let's talk about a country that used to lead in innovation with the Industrial Revolution, all this stuff. Let's thank God that the South African mind of Elon Musk is in America in these companies. I mean, you know how lucky we are to have that, first of all? Okay, so let's talk about, innovation happening in America. Let's talk about how right after the 90s and stuff, we really felt like we stopped innovating. Like, we felt that way. We hadn't gone to space on our own rocket in, I believe, a decade up until SpaceX took us up a few months ago, right? So that whole feeling of, how they always say, we were the first ones on the moon. What happened?
Right.
The whole trailer for the movie Interstellar was about how we used to lead. What happened? We used to be explorers. Okay. So in that vein, let's talk about humans and their happiness index, okay? Let's talk about the happiness index, where you ask the average American, are you happy?
Yeah.
1 to 100. So you can be 60, whatever. I think the highest place, the place with the highest happiness index, I believe, is the Netherlands. Now, the problem with that is you'll have to live in the Netherlands. And there's the military. So, whatever. Like, there's a bit of a trade for happiness, right?
Right.
Oh, that's so funny that Derek wrote that. Derek, do not forget that. Luis, don't forget this. So this was one of my solutions too, Derek.
Okay. All
awesome.
right.
Yes, that was one of my solutions too. Okay, let's do this. The Massachusetts Constitution is the first written constitution, and based on how successful that was, that's what we based the U.S. Constitution on, and that was a written constitution. After that, the world began to adopt this form of a written constitution, but that all started in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. In the same way, let America start a city, and it's a perfect city that has 500,000 people there, where the goal is to make sure that the happiness index is as high as humanly possible, where you control the weather, where there's no crime, there's no rape, there's no murder, where there's no cops, where there's no parking, where things are futuristic. And we use that city as a model for what could be. And we'll kind of weed out the bad people. We'll weed out the bad tendency. We'll have rules like, first of all, don't harm anybody. So we'll let that be up to the individual. What does that mean, like, to harm somebody? If I go on a date and I don't call them back, is that harming somebody? If I murder someone, is that harming somebody? Yes.
Right.
The other one is, and then the other rule is be cool. And I'm just going to leave that up to the people. Be cool. Just be cool.
Okay.
And I'll let you define that how you want to.
Yeah.
And the third rule is this: if you have something secret going on in your life that you need help with, if you find yourself struggling with something that might be like taboo or weird or strange, or you just don't feel comfortable asking regular people about it, you should know that there's a place you can go to get help for that.
Yeah.
These are my 3 rules for the city. And I want the US to make that city and use it as a sample set. And we do this, by the way, with other things. We do this with the world's, seeds. We have all the seeds somewhere just in case there's a cataclysmic event. We have all the world's seeds somewhere so that we can, replant everything. Right. In the same way, I want the U.S. to create this city that aims to just be a perfect place where everyone's happy, and we'll use that as a model for the rest of the U.S. and for the rest of the world. That's one way that the U.S. can lead, and it can be brought to you by, Verizon, Netflix, and all that stuff. But the goal here is to increase the happiness index of the average citizen.
Well, you know what this sounds like? It sounds like the sequel to Biodome 2. I wonder if we can get Pauly Shore.
I said happiness.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, I think it's an interesting idea. I think if you polled Americans, and I think I can't remember the exact number, but how many Americans are one catastrophe away from being on the street, from being destitute? Like one medical bill, one torn ACL, one broken ankle, one member of the household who brings in income passes away, and now that income goes down in half. I think if I remember correctly, I believe it's like over 70% of Americans are in that boat where if something bad happens, they don't have the money to pay for it and they wouldn't know where to go or how to do it. There's your index, your happiness index right there. When people don't have the money to save, when they don't have the money to take a proper time away from work, when they don't have the money to go to a doctor, I think that's what's causing anxiety. That's what's causing unhappiness. I'm going
to play the Republican here.
Yeah.
But is it their fault?
No, not when if you're asking people to pull themselves by the bootstraps and I think this, okay, let me think about this for a second. Okay. When you're asking people to pull themselves out of the muck by their bootstraps, there's no better country on the planet than the United States of America to do that in. There are grants, there are opportunities. I always tell people, the difference between, third world countries and here, other than running water and toilets, is you can go to a public library. You can educate yourself. You can go on the internet and it's not limited. You can get whatever information you want. You can't do that in China. You can't do that in some other countries around the world where these things are really, really controlled by the state.
Right. Yeah.
Like to the ability to go to a public library, the ability to go to a park, the ability to
huge.
It's like to see art. To see art is a privilege. Okay, so
America is the greatest country.
But with that said, I don't think it's fair for the guy who took a shot, for the guy who's done everything right, or for the lady, and something bad happens for them to be thrown out on the street as if they are not productive to society. And when you have a mother who had maybe 2 kids, maybe she had them out of wedlock, maybe she wasn't educated enough to really make a smart decision on those things. It's such a small minority of our society that we should have enough in the system to take care of them amply. But regardless of that, it should be also available that if you are that single mom that does have that shitty job, okay, at McDonald's or working,
my mom.
I hear you, or working at a grocery store or any one of or a restaurant like me, any one of these service jobs, they should not. And, I know there's an argument for small business here, and maybe the difference can be made up by the federal government, just like they do with American Airlines or any other corporate conglomerate, Ford, Chevy, whoever they bail out. If the American people got a bailout, they would have a $43,000 check per person. Okay, that was the first bailout. Okay, so what would the average American person do with $43,000 extra in their pocket? I think they would pay all their debt off. I think they might go back to school. I think they might make a better decision for their kids, maybe for themselves. And yeah, you're going to get that guy who's going to blow it on cocaine and hookers. Okay, but at least you gave him the opportunity. You gave him the way to get out. And even if you blow that opportunity, even if you screw up, even if you fall on your face, the idea that you can go to a Rite Aid, you can go to a McDonald's, you can go to one of these low-level, retail type of jobs, and you can still get paid like a human being, $25, $30 an hour. So that way you can afford that apartment. You can afford new clothes. You can afford to take that cute girl out that you like, out to the movies or a dinner. Like all of these stress, all of these worries, all of this anxiety, I think comes from people not having health care, people not having money in their pockets, and people being overworked to death. And, and the system's not working. It's ignoring what's now growing part of our society. And that middle class is shrinking every single day. It shrinks more and more and more. And, so like, I don't know what the answer is there, but It's tough, man, because I do believe that America is the best country to do something like that, to be successful. But it's also a country where, like, if you make one or two mistakes, you're out. Like, society does not care about you.
Which
And
harkens back to the first question. Are they doing this on purpose? Like, do they want this economy to be the way it is? The Gini coefficient. Have you ever heard of this? The Gini coefficient.
I've heard of it, but I'm not sure what it is.
It's like my favorite econometric stat. It's like the wealth disparity between the haves and the have-nots.
Yeah.
So like a few places with the highest Gini coefficient is like Myanmar, where like you have these people that have just millions and millions, and then people who just are not eating. One really high one is in Los Angeles. If you go downtown, those apartments cost $4,000 a month. But right outside the apartment doors
there's a guy taking a dump on
literally, it's Skid Row. And so that's a really, really high Gini coefficient. I'm not sure that these economists and that these governments that we vote into office are aiming for what we're aiming for, Luis.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they would do this basic thing. For example, I used to tutor for about 9 years, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And what I noticed was it was also like a lesson for me too, because all the things that I had learned in high school, when I teach them when I'm 27 years old, they kind of hit me differently because now I'm much older and like I understand these concepts with a 27-year-old mind. In the same vein, shouldn't there be like a re-education class for 6 months at the age of 27, 28 that you could take for free that goes through how the stock market works and how real estate works, so that how to do healthy investments?
Right.
I showed 7 people last year during the pandemic how to invest in the stock market. And the one through line that I noticed them all say, they were like, "Oh, I never thought I was allowed to do this.
Yeah.
Like, I never thought that I could be a part of this." I was like, well, that's the greatest part of America, is that we have these economies set up where you can be engaged in it. And I'm not sure that some of these people know how to like engage themselves in it, which then begs that question: are we setting up an economy that is trying to leave these people out? You know what I mean? That's the question.
It's the problem is at what cost, though. Again, at what cost? Like if again, these people can't go to the grocery store and get milk for their kids or cereal or laundry detergent, like that's going to turn into a mob real quick. If let's say the situation in Texas was a month long, do you think people would just be sitting in their house? Do you think, what kind of welcoming party do you think would be for Ted Cruz when he gets back from Cancun if that was going on for a month?
Right.
I think it would be pitchforks and sidearms, like you said. But I mean, dude, it's like, unfortunately, I think from a citizen's aspect, it's gonna have to get really, really, really bad for the average soccer mom before we see the change that we're discussing right now. I mean, I remember you're talking about radical change right now.
When George W. Bush was campaigning, there was this like white mother, probably a single mother or something, from Ohio or Iowa or something, and she said, "I'm working 3 jobs just to make ends meet." And she had that look of a mother that is just, she is working 3 jobs, And me as an economist, I was, I'm so hinged on those questions. And she, from the bottom of her heart, she asked directly George W. Bush, "I'm working 3 jobs to make ends meet. What do you have to say for somebody like me?" And he goes, well, that's uniquely American, isn't it? I go, "Oh, that is the fucking worst answer you just gave."
Dude,
you do not care. That's not uniquely American.
Doesn't care. No, that's not uniquely American at all.
Can we go back to Derek's AI question real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so now that we are in a pandemic, and by the way, like, this is why I have anxiety about us leaving the pandemic. I don't know if you have anxiety about it, but I do.
Yeah.
I feel like we haven't learned the lessons we're supposed to have learned. And one of them is that Congress is a scam. They can do everything on Zoom. They should be paid less. Right. And like these huge decisions, I think a computer could really help us out with it. Where if the algorithm is, we want what's best for the human race, for the species Homo sapiens, I think a computer could also come up with some of the best congressional legislation, or probably the worst. But
I mean, it's an interesting idea, but then the problem is, well, who makes the AI? Who makes the machine? You know, is it an open source machine who's allowed to sort of put ideas into this?
That
Who
could be made
writes?
better over
Who,
time.
you know, who write? It's just like, and
We
also a
can
machine.
explain to the computer
A
how we
machine.
are.
Yeah, I just
The
like
more information,
my
the more
my.
accurate it'll be.
Yeah, no, my fears would be is just like how a machine could be hacked. You
But
know,
you're on a closed circuit.
I mean, I'm
It'll
sure
be on a
there were.
closed circuit.
No, hey, look, I'm sure there are ways to do it. It's just those would be the questions that I would have. The
Okay.
first is, like, okay, who's the company making this AI? Who is that company connected to? Like those are important questions. It would be like,
Yeah.
for example, I think if it was Lex Fridman, who is an AI professor at MIT,
right.
like then I would be like, go for it, bro. I know your intentions and it's pure love. Go for it.
Right.
So I think that's not too far off. I think something like that is a possible solution, but I don't know if we're there yet. I think that would be.
I mean, I don't think it'd be a waste of time to
I don't
start
think so
trying
either.
and see what it comes up with. Maybe over 5-10 years.
I would love to see
Or
a
the
grant at like an MIT,
Right.
get something like this where they actually develop the software and see how it works. Maybe try it on the campus and see if those changes actually improve campus life, and then you could apply that model to bigger sample sizes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we got this. I think we figured it out. I think we got it. I mean, okay,
we solved it.
So the one thing that I always find fascinating about you is you are a Renaissance man of sorts. Like the last time you are, like you, you ride motorcycles, you sail. You're now learning how to fly planes. Like dude, your life is just. I always look at you and I go, "Damn, dude!" They go, "Dude, it's just a renaissance. Everything he does, he can do it." Like I was telling you, I'm just now starting to look at sort of the tests I have to take to figure out how to do my drone legally here in the state of California. And it's like I'm looking at, I'm like, Jesus, this is a lot, and it's very daunting and sort of intimidating. I know I could do it, but it's but then to I was like, damn, dude, I can't imagine what an actual pilot would have to go through. Yeah. So how is your flight path coming along so far? How are you finding it?
Yeah, it's good. I came up to Oregon to do it. I've been doing ground school, which is just the written portion, for about 3 months now, and I'm about maybe half a week away from being done with that. So that's about 3 months of work, in the can. Then we start flying. I started 2 weeks ago. Started flying. The real shitty thing is that it's rain 24/7 here, so you can't fly if there's rain or low cloud cover. So we're just like waiting for gaps in the weather, which seem to be starting right about now. So today I went flying for the first time in 2.5 weeks. It was awesome. But there's a lot to do. There's a lot that goes on, but my instructor is great. And it's a lot, though. It is like intense. It is because when you sail, I mean, I could be asleep for an hour and my boat goes, 3 miles, into the ocean. If I fly, I am looking at just like 1,000 things.
Yeah. Well, I've heard also flying at night is a completely different beast.
I'm nervous for that. Yeah. I'm super nervous for
that. You could confuse a lot of things on the ground for where you think you are. Yeah.
But it's interesting now, like hearing, cockpit video and even going through the Kobe stuff, now knowing what to like analyze that like the pilot was going through. I mean, his was a facial disorientation. It's the same thing that happened to JFK Jr.
Yeah.
It's like the leading cause of, death. It's kind of interesting now that I know what I know to go through that information and be like, oh, this is what they were experiencing. And, he is a well-trained pilot with thousands of hours behind his belt.
Right.
And it happened to him. I mean,
yeah.
But it's that pain of learning and it's a lot of fun. I don't know why I'm doing it. It's just another thing to do in my eternal quest for happiness that seems to elude me. But
hey, if it fills that void a little bit, then worth it.
It doesn't.
Well, I'm sure it does on some level. I mean, when you're flying, you're not thinking about a lot of things.
It's funny. I had a couple of setbacks because I had a shoulder injury, and then after my brother passed away, I had to take Zoloft.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like a big thing regarding pilots and antidepressants and all that stuff.
Right.
And that was like a kind of like an interesting mental challenge to like navigate those waters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're figuring it out, which I'm happy to see.
Yeah, figured it out. Will you come fly with me sometime? Do you trust me?
Yeah, dude. I mean, honestly, it makes me nervous. I was nervous when you asked me to go sailing. I'm like, all right, I'll go sail with you. And then, and now, getting a Cessna. I've never been in a Cessna. I'm not gonna. Just the idea of it already. I wouldn't care if you were Commander David Fravor, or I'm sure you don't know who that is, but yeah, Cessna would just make me nervous overall. But hey, man, if you got a license, I'll go with you.
All right, perfect.
I'll go with you. Yeah. Good. Well, speaking of flying, so this is the story I was teasing a little bit about. So an American Airlines pilot taking off from, I believe it was Phoenix, Arizona. He was en route to Phoenix, Arizona. This happened on Sunday on American Airlines flight 2292. It's got a 15-second audio clip of what this pilot just saw. So I'm going to play that clip for you guys, and I just want to get your thoughts on this specifically.
Have any targets up here? We just had something go right over the top of us that, I hate to say this, looked like a long cylindrical object. It almost looked like a cruise missile type of thing moving really fast that went right over the top of us.
And that's it. That's all they got.
Could you play it again?
Yeah, I can play it again.
Have any targets up here? We just had something go right over the top of us that, I hate to say this, looked like a long cylindrical object. It almost looked like a cruise missile type of thing moving really fast that went right over the top of us.
So a long cylindrical object looking like a cruise missile looking thing just flew right over them.
What that leaves out that's critically important is, was there fire? Was there like a rocket attached? Was it just moving like that?
Yeah, no, that's also my question too. It's not my favorite cockpit recording that I've ever heard, if I'm being honest.
Yeah,
because we don't get a response from the tower. I would like to know what the tower said, because if the tower's like, no, we got nothing on radar, then you got something cooking right there.
Do you know the altitude?
I mean, I would assume they were at cruising altitude, somewhere around 33,000 feet. Let me see if the article's a little more specific. I mean, it sounded like as if they were already en route. They were a passenger flight from New Mexico, and a close encounter happened. The incident happened around 1 p.m. local time. It doesn't say how. Let me see if it says how long into the flight they were.
That's Class A airspace. And for something cylindrical to be moving there, is it one of those, how they send like a GoPro on like a small rocket? Could it be that? Like one of those GoPros that go like the stratosphere?
That high? That's a hell of a rocket, dude. I mean,
they go to like the stratosphere.
I know of balloons that go that high. I don't know of any model rockets that go that high.
Daytime or nighttime?
It was a daytime sighting, 1 p.m. He added, okay, so
he added, I just took a bunch of mushrooms before this.
He added that it's unlikely that the object was a missile because Sundays are a day off for the military. I mean, White Sands Missile Range, which operates in the area, did not respond for a request to comment.
I think it's the weekend. I think it's a homemade rocket that went to the stratosphere with a GoPro.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't shock me. I mean, look, the problem is that again, we have is this story and that little snippet of a recording, but we don't that's it. I mean, we don't have any other information past that, so it's tough to say really what it is or isn't. You know, I would love to say it's a cylindrical UFO, but we don't know. But what was funny is one of the debunkers, a very famous debunker, they just set UFO Twitter on fire. And I thought it was pretty fun. I thought it was kind of funny. And Mick West sent out this photo, and he wrote, "When does a Lear jet look like a cruise missile? Question mark. When it's too far away to tell the difference." So his theory is that it was either a cruise missile or some sort of, let me see. So he compared it, he's got the same Lear jet with the cruise missile, and at its farthest, they look pretty similar. Like when they're pretty far away. I mean, I see what point he's getting at. And if we get more of the cockpit recording, maybe this comparison makes a little more sense if we got a little more information as to, what was there radar tracking on this thing? What did the co-pilot have to say? I would love to know what the tower said. How long did this interaction go on for? Because, I mean, I don't know. I mean, have you talked to a tower? How long are the conversations if something weird is going on? I mean, how many weird things have you come across in your short time flying? But
not much, but you are supposed to keep tower conversations extremely short, like you're not supposed to hog the airwaves, like it's not supposed to be like a conversation, but it'll be interesting to hear what the tower said. It's in Class A airspace, which is only allowed to the IFR flights, which is instrument flight ratings. It seems like a secret mission to me, but this is based on literally no data. I don't know what to say beyond that. I actually don't think that would be a homemade rocket, because that would be too small in the sky.
Right.
I had the size of what he saw and like how far it is. There was a plane flying above me today, maybe 1,000 feet above me, and it looks really small. And that's just a Cessna.
Right. No, it's true. I mean, I would assume though. I mean, it's a crazy assumption because we don't have the facts, but usually these commercial pilots are former military guys who've flown in the military, and for him to pick up the radio and call something in like this, to me says a lot. Like, why would he even say that? Like, unless he thought it was a danger to his plane. Like, I think if he just saw it and let's say it was 1,000 feet away, or as far as this image sort of projects, if he saw something like that, I think he would let it go. Especially if it popped up on the radar and it has some sort of transponder device. But the fact that he picked up his radio and he called the radar and he's like, "Hey, I just saw something fly over the plane that was cylindrical, and it didn't look like a missile." He didn't say that, but in the article, that's what it said. It didn't look like a missile. So it's interesting. It's an interesting snippet, but I think it's very inconclusive just because we don't have a lot of data.
We don't.
Yeah. Is that fair to say, considering you don't really review UFO stories?
Oh, I would say this is lacking data hugely. I want to know 1,000 more things that should be available. First of all, I want to know how far away the object was that he believes in, and how long he thinks it was, and I want to know what the tower said. I want to hear those three things right away. That would clear up a lot.
Yeah, I agree.
I do want to note the comments here, which I'm not used to comments, but I see all these guys. Great comments, Marco, Eric, Rodrigo, everybody.
Yeah.
They're probably assassinated AI.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, they're all talking about the AI. I think they really dig the AI idea.
Calamity. It's cool that you do this.
Yeah, no, dude, we got a really strong little group of people that follow the show, and it grows every time we do it. So, yeah, thank you guys, everyone.
Abhishek, Preston.
Yeah, we got some folks here. Yeah, no, it's really cool. Yeah, and they're coming in and out, and it'll always be up in case they want to check it out later, because this is a long conversation, but I'm digging it. Okay, so I guess that'll sort of lead into the next thing that I'll talk about, and that is that we've got a little bit of news when it comes to the big phone home. We did have a really big meeting today, and I don't know, I told you a little bit about it, right?
You talked to the Pentagon. Right?
Well, no, I wouldn't say it's the Pentagon, but I mean, we did have some very high level officials or former officials in the conversation, and we were basically talking about this event and sort of the best way to tackle it, that also attracts the people that we really, I think, would add a lot of legitimacy to the movement. And it's, Christopher Mellon and Lou Elizondo, and to get those guys to comment on something like this, it's got to be done in a certain way. It's got to be it's got to be tactful. And so that's what the conversation was about, is how do we make this tactful? How do we make this so it doesn't scare off certain people within our government? Because the moment that they think it's a silly thing, like a storm area 51, if they get any sort of whiff of that, they're out. They're out.
Okay. Yeah. Right.
So we got to be very, very careful about how we approach things. And so we're coming up with different solutions and different strategies. And I don't want to give anything away because I don't want to set expectations or ruin any expectations, but we've got 62 days, 61 as of tomorrow, and to get this organized and going. And we do have some wonderful people involved, and we're going to have to do a lot of work to make sure that the right people that we really want involved, specifically Christopher Mellon. That's the guy that I really would just love to get his attention and get his support behind this effort, this sort of people's movement. And if you don't know what the Big Phone Home is, this is sort of new to you. We're going to be doing an all-day telethon here on this channel, a live stream from 6 a.m. West Coast time to 6 p.m. East Coast time.
No, really?
Yeah. That'll be 9 to 9 on the East Coast.
And what do you do with it?
And so we're going to be calling Congress, and we're going to be encouraging other UFO podcast channels, hosts, dignitaries having to do with the topic, whether it be former government officials, call into the show, into the telethon, make a phone call on the show, or show us a letter that they've constructed to mail. What's going on with your background?
No, falling apart.
It's falling apart. Oh, is that your audition screen?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Can we get a PA in here?
Okay, somebody get Mr. Matthews an assistant, please. So that's the idea, and the idea is to get all of these channels to promote to their followings and their fans. Hey, on April 26th, we're going to be calling Congress. We're going to have a script with bullet points, so you can, in your own voice, tell them exactly what you would like to see from Congress, and it's it's going to be an all-inclusive thing where we're going to try and get as many people involved as we can, because the more people we have calling Congress, maybe we can get some real headway in regards to UFO information. Because the fact is that as taxpayers, we have the right to some of this information, especially if it's information that should be unclassified. And that's the whole point. So we just want to make sure that our message is clear, but get excited, because we do have, I'm just going to go ahead and go over some of the names here that we have for the Big Phone Home, and some names that, there are some other names also being floated around that are, that are important voices in the UFO Twitterverse, in, the UFO community, in the UAP community. So, as we've got a commitment from Lou Elizondo, which is obviously a big fish. We've got a commitment from Sean Cahill. We've got a commitment from Ryan Sprague. We've got a commitment from Jeremy McGowan, who, by the way, is going to be on the show on Sunday. He's going to talk about his Osiris project and the Sky Hub that he's connected to his Land Rover. We're going to go all over that. I'm very, very curious about that. Operation that he's got running out of I believe it was Las Vegas, if I'm not mistaken. He's based out of. We've got Andy McGrillen from That UFO Podcast. We've got Science is Religion, who's a big guy on UFO Twitter. The Undead Gaucho, Zach Sitchy from Project Human. Post Disclosure World is on board. He's also another big important voice in this UFO UAP disclosure movement. We've got Zan Zetterstrom, who is at the Signal on Twitter. We've got Engaging the Phenomenon, who we had a very good conversation yesterday. He's working on getting a very big filmmaker. I'm not going to give the name because, again, I don't want to set expectations and then fall short. But as soon as we get a confirmation, we got multiple people working on this said filmmaker, and I'm hoping he joins us, man. It would be really, really cool to have all these voices. We've got Jake Mann, Danny Silva. So, this is, we've got some real heavy hitters in the UFO community that are all on board. And now it's just organizing all of these voices and how we're going to do this event. There's a lot of logistics that are going to go behind it. The best way you can help is anytime you tweet about the UFO or the UAP phenomena, please consider using the hashtag #TheBigPhoneHome. Excuse me. And if you have room in that tweet, please also use the hashtag #UAP secrecy until we figure out maybe some different hashtags to use. We're sort of discussing those philosophies and theories now. So again, we're doing a lot of work behind the scenes. This organization is happening, and I'm really, really excited. And everyone seems to be sort of taken back by how quickly I've sort of come in and rustled the UFO world. They were all very supportive of the passion and sort of this I don't give a shit attitude. Like, I'm going to do this whether you guys are on board or not. And they're on board. They're all really excited. They're all super stoked to do this. They just want to make sure that it's the right way and that it doesn't scare off the folks that we really, really want involved in this. So it just adds as much legitimacy as we possibly can to the movement and the voice. And also, we're sort of discussing it may not be one day. We might do this over multiple days, because someone made in the in this discussion made a very good point that the problem is that Congress has AI listening to phone calls. They track all of these things, where they come from, who's calling, what district they're calling from. Are they actually calling from the district they say they're calling from? They record some of these conversations. All of this stuff is recorded. And so, we want to make sure that it's not just a one-day thing, so they can easily ignore it and be like, okay, well, that was the rush. It's over. Nobody really cares. We're going to encourage. I'm going to encourage on my show, every single show. I got to really remind myself of this, that, hey, you don't need to do this on April 26th. You can do this today. I've got links to Congress in the chat. Check it out. If you want to call a congressperson, there are resources out there already right now that if you just do a little bit of work, you can do this today. You can do this tomorrow, and you can do this whenever you want. Of course, we want you on April 26th because it's going to be a fun event. We're going to have a lot of fun people come through. So I'm talking a lot about it because it's important. So I hope you join us again. Use the hashtag #TheBigPhoneHome, and let's see what good we can make of this, and see what kind of information we can pull out of our government, because the bottom line is that, again, we're taxpayers, and some of this information we have the right to see. And so that's what we're asking for. So again, stay tuned. There's going to be a website coming. Right now, you can check out the Facebook page. It's, again, in the description below, or in the description of this video. Click the Facebook link so that way you are updated on everything that goes down with the Big Phone Home. So that's it. That's all I'm going to say. Those are all the updates on the Big Phone Home. If you guys have any questions, what I'm going to do now is put the StreamYard link in the description, and anybody at all that is interested in calling into the show, please do so. The link is right there. Of course, I've got a couple of rules you may or may not know. Don't be naked, rule number 1. Rule number 2, please be connected to a Wi-Fi signal. And rule number 3, just turn down whatever device you're listening to the show on, so that way it doesn't have any feedback. But other than that, lines are open. You guys are more than welcome to come in and join us. Sometimes people call in, Jake. Sometimes people don't.
Right.
Wait and see what happens. But
I had a great time with you.
well, dude, no, I think the conversation was amazing, man. And this is why I said to you earlier on the phone, like, I can't have that kind of conversation with 98.9% of the people in Los Angeles, because they go to the extreme so quickly of, oh, you're a racist, or you're a Trump sympathizer, or, I mean, it's almost become like, either like the like PETA or something like that, where it's like they start out with this really, sort of angelic, wonderful, positive purpose, and they become a cult to a point where they almost are a mirror image of the people they hate, where it's like they're shaming people because they ate a steak, like it's, so stuff like that. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, dude, I always love having conversations with you, man, because they keep me sane in this very unsane city sometimes. And if all of those, and this is the thing that all of my conservative friends say, if all of those liberal agendas and policies are so great, why does San Francisco look like a dystopia? And I look at them and I'm like, it's a good point. It's a good point. Like all of these, these regulations, like this over regulations of companies and things like that, that drove Elon Musk out of California, and it's, and they don't hold these billionaires in Troy. I mean, that is the richest zip code.
That's the Gini coefficient, man.
In all of the world, and they can't figure out how to get poor people off the street.
Thanks, Derek Daughtry.
Yeah. What do you say? Oh, okay. It was a great chat. Thanks for letting us listen, dude. The pleasure was mine. I'm glad you were here. I'm glad you were listening. I'm glad you stuck around here for the hour and 47 minutes. Felt like beers with friends. I can't argue there. It did feel like beers with friends. Rodrigo says the big phone home may open a good precedent if it's done well done. I agree. And that's why we have to be incredibly tactful and careful in how we execute it. Do pilots see nearby ADSB stuff? What is ADSB?
I looked that up. I don't know what that is. Automatic Dependent Surveillance Broadcast.
Huh.
So ADSB, I think my plane is equipped with it, but we haven't really used it yet. So my opinion is invalid right now. Not applicable because I don't know enough.
Fair enough. Yeah, I had never heard of that. So, and let me ask you this: have you asked? Has a question ever come up of, "Hey, man, you ever seen anything weird with any of your, professors?" Yeah.
There's been nothing unexpected. Like they'll see weird stuff, but it's all like you'll see parachuters and all this stuff out of nowhere.
Yeah,
but it's expected. I don't think so.
Okay.
But keep in mind these guys are flying. It's called VFR.
Yeah.
You have to be able to see everything. The people to ask are the IFR guys. That's the instrument rating guys. Those are the guys that fly up to, where you're describing.
Right. Okay. Well, keep posted if anybody, anybody gives you a fun story, because I'm always looking for those. Let's see here. Why AI when there are examples of countries where things work out on the social and political level? People just need to commit to what's really important for things to work.
Well, everyone has a different interpretation of what's really important. Also, in those countries, there are several things lacking. And this is why I hate when people go, well, look, like the Netherlands could do it. Well, then how come Canada has this? Well, then how come it's like, we are not Canada. We are not the Netherlands. We have things they don't have. They have things we don't have. Our goal is to become the best version of ourselves. But if somebody goes and says, well, Canada has free healthcare. It's like, well, Canada also doesn't have nukes. I'm not
Right.
sure, like,
Right.
Right,
but we could also look to those countries and say, well, what are their economic priorities?
Right.
And say, okay, well, Canada's also not spending 58% of their budget on military shit. So I think those are good. For example, what about New Zealand?
But also Canada is not developing like the US is.
That's true. Can't argue there. It's also got a lot less people.
Yeah, and like the US is the one creating Google, YouTube, Facebook, SpaceX, Tesla. All these companies are US companies. These are big, backbone, American, fucking beefy companies.
Yeah, they're
like, let's be like Canada. I'm like, wait, no.
Yeah,
I don't mind us stealing their best aspects and seeing how we can use those here. Yeah. But we're not Canada, guys.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you: do you think what would you have done? What sort of things would you have done? Say you're president of the United States, and you knew this COVID problem was coming down the pipe. How would you have handled it? What do you think you would have done differently than or the same?
I would have made it abundantly clear from the beginning that if you want the economies to reopen ASAP and you want things to get back to normal ASAP, stay as one conglomerate, united front, and let's do the things that we are hearing we should do. And along the way, certain advice will be discounted as we find out that it's not really that necessary to do those things. That's okay, because we're on this journey of really quick exploration to go find out what this disease is all about. So, I mean, look at how we worship, the greatest generation that went to, World War II and did all these things. Mm-hmm. They had to make a sacrifice. The sacrifice that we're asking people to make right now is to put a piece of cloth over your mouth whenever you go outside.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. We're not asking you to go to war. We're asking you can go outside, but just have a little thing when you go out, because we're showing signs that this is a way to stop the spread. But they turned it into a political thing at the disgusting cost of 500,000 Americans.
Yeah.
And what sucks is, my mom's a nurse. She is seeing this every day. It's not it's not a joke. These nurses and these doctors are coming back exhausted.
Yeah.
And we politicize a cataclysmic event. What a disgusting thing to have been done.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I thought
if you want me to speak in defense of Trump, I can do that too.
No. No.
Monday morning quarterback, but at the time, you're not sure we should close down the economy.
Right. No, I can understand why you would have that fear. But I did like what the UK did was, okay, look, we're going to shut this down for 2 to 3 months and try and get back to normal after that. But in the meantime, instead of just letting these companies furlough and then eventually fire all these people, we're just going to give the bailout to those people and say, hey, listen, to the companies, say, look, don't furlough anybody. We'll pay the salaries until things get back to normal. So that way, when they come back, the economy is still there. I'm interested to see what the numbers are. Because, for example, my girlfriend, that's exactly what happened to her. She got furloughed, and then that furlough turned into, we don't need you ever again. But yet that company took a bailout. That company got money. And then that company also turned around and sold the company, right before all of this went really, really crazy. Right. It's not fair, but she ended up finding a new job that paid better. That is, it's sort of in the same realm of what she was doing. So in a way, her being let go presented itself with a better opportunity for her. But I know most Americans aren't finding that experience.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I mean, unless you think I'm wrong. You think
I don't see. This is how I want to know what their real decision making is and what they say behind closed doors, which I hate. Closed doors in American politics. But I'm wondering if they're saying something like, "Let them burn. They'll find some way to get out of it and be even better." Like, I wonder if they were banking on your girlfriend being even more successful afterwards. And when you said, most Americans aren't, I would like to know if it is actually most Americans or not.
I don't know. That's speculation. That's why I said I'd like to see the numbers. Right, it's going to be. I think it's going to be a while before we actually see the quantification of these numbers and how it actually affected the economy. We still got a little while before we know that. But I could tell you what I did learn. The stock market is not quantifiable to how the average American citizen is doing. Like the stock market went up and up and up and up and up and up and up during the worst economic crisis of our lifetime. And I'm trying to wrap my brain around that. I'm like, well, how is it possible that all of these people are not working right now, but yet this economy is going up, but yet we're still adding debt to it? Dude, the numbers don't make sense. And it goes back to what you say. I wanted to touch on this because you're like, it feels like they're doing it on purpose. Who is they?
Who is they is like the economic advisors to a government. Who is they are the advisors to a senator and to a congressman. Who is they are these companies that apply a pressure to government and these lobbyists that say, we think we know what's best for the American people.
Yeah.
This is our agenda and this is what we would want executed. They're the ones who set the what's the rate called? Federal
the
interest rate.
Interest rate. Yeah, interest rates. Yeah.
Yeah. This is what the day is. And I think they're banking even, what's unfortunate is that I can't tell if it's a good or bad thing, but they're using politics to determine they're using a political election to determine what policy should be.
Yeah.
That could be like a bad thing. Clinton had some of like the highest approval rating because he used elections to keep his approval rating high. Like he wanted to do good.
But then again, I mean, we just elected Biden, right? And I think one of the big reasons why Biden got elected is because in Georgia, they were promising people a $2,000 check. A stimulus check. If you get Biden elected, we're going to get you $2,000.
Literally buying votes.
Literally buying votes. And now he's president of the United States. They negotiated down from $2,000 to $1,500 or whatever it is. And also there was this, we're going to fight for $15 an hour. That's gone by the wayside. All of these, what about the kids in the cages? How come the president hasn't gone down to the border and been like, what the hell are we doing here? Where are all of these progressive ideas that Biden was going to change? It's the same thing. The only difference between this presidency and the last, as far as I can see, is the Twitter account. From a policy standpoint, they're the same. They're not improving, or they're not even trying to improve the lives of the everyday average American. They are doing everything in their power to make sure you don't get $15 an hour. They're doing everything in their power to make sure that you don't get a Social Security check when you retire. They're doing everything in their power to make sure that you never get out of this rut. And it's
that's because they have to do those things. Closer to the election. If he does it now, it's like when George H.W. Bush did really well after the Gulf War in the first 2 years, but then people forgot about that by the time it came around to election time. I think they're probably saving a few of these things, maybe we just have to give them some more time. But our eyes are on him.
Yeah,
he's a one-term president, by the way.
Who, Biden?
Yeah.
Who do you think is gonna? You think Trump?
He said he's his campaign basically acknowledged that he's getting so old.
So what is he just going to give the reins to Harris?
I hope not. I can't stand that.
That is, I mean, don't even get me started on her. I find that there's another thing I find fascinating. How does someone who finished sixth?
No, just 1%.
With 1% of the vote become vice president of the United States. I hate identity politics. It is probably my
Lord.
biggest pet
Me too.
peeve
Me too.
in this political sphere. I cannot, just because I'm Latino and the person in my district is Latino doesn't automatically mean I'm going to vote for them.
Oh, I know. Dude, it's my favorite thing when after the election, a company like MSNBC goes, "How did we lose the Latino vote? I thought we were." It's like, no, like you got to stop. I can't stand it. I can't stand them talking about like the black vote, the white vote. That's enough. But Luis, now we have to ask that eternal question: are we yelling from outside the steps of the Capitol versus doing what Biden does? Biden is a stone cold political killer. You do not be fooled by his,
I think Biden is a failed politician, and he stumbled into this presidency.
No.
I mean, that man has tried. He's tried to run for president. He's tried to run for president. The thing that makes him stone cold killer is that he's a Republican in Democrats' clothing. Sure. Like, I mean, this guy. He's a conservative Democrat, which is the only way. This guy passed and was the architect of one of the most socially damaging the crime bill, the Clinton crime bill, that is the reason why we have the problem we have today. It is like 75% of the reason why we have these issues with it's the reason why Black Lives Matter exists in the first place.
Right, but you're arguing whether he's a good, governor, like whether he's good at, governing. I don't know about that. What I'm saying is he's a stone cold politician.
Yes. I'm not going to argue that.
For Super Tuesday, 2 days before Super Tuesday, he did the most classic move ever. He shut down Bernie, shut down Pete, got them both on board, clearly made a promise to them in some capacity. Now we know with Buttigieg, it was a labor secretary. That's a 48-hour news cycle. So he shut those two down. The next day, they announced his support, and the next day was Super Tuesday.
Yep.
So he won everything.
Well, that's what that to me was the knife that destroyed the Sanders campaign. Yeah. Because you had Warren, Klobuchar, and Buttigieg all on the same day go, we're supporting Biden. And it's the day before Super Tuesday. So that automatically destroyed any shot that Bernie had at winning. And he was winning. That's the part that he was winning. Right. He had it. He had it.
None of those mattered.
It was a cold, calculated, disgusting political move. And it solidified for me that I couldn't vote for him. I didn't vote for either one of them. It's the first time ever that I never went to the voting booth because I was just so disenfranchised and so sick of the bullshit because I knew like that was such a disgusting it's one of my it's up there. It's not in my top 5.
The problem is we're screaming from the outside then.
Nobody can hear us.
Nobody can hear. So what do? Do we kowtow and do the dirty thing to get the office to make a change? Mm-hmm. Or do we keep screaming from the outside?
Yeah. I mean, look, like I told you, if you're going to run, I got you. I got you. Like, I would love to see you run. I would be afraid of me running. I think I'd be almost too good at it. And I think I would fall into the system and be like, yeah, this 200K, this shit's real cozy. And you want to know something? I'm going to pass policy. This is why I don't run. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm gonna pass. Yeah. Well, what's that? You want to stall that dam? You want to kill the beavers to pass your oil program? Yeah. Well,
you're afraid of that with you? No.
You're gonna pay me $45K to pass this bill? All right. Yeah. Yeah, I can do that. I need a new fucking Cadillac. You know, like dude. It's a really, really hard temptation for any human to turn down.
Yeah. Rodrigo, my answer is Trump.
What do you say? Well, who do you think will be the best president in 2 years? Biden or Harris?
Man.
Not best.
Who do you think will be the president?
Yeah.
I think Trump.
You think Trump's going to run and win again? Well, here's another thing. How could you, with the majority, not impeach him? How is that? How did you not get that done? Like this is what we were talking about. How Democrats don't hold the line. They don't move as one, and then when they want to do something, they fall flat on their face.
Well, I think it's more
time.
like a damning statement of, once again, Congress is a scam. Like, how is this a proper trial of a man when everyone's going to vote primarily party line? Why don't they use the adversary system and choose a jury of your peers like they do for your criminal cases? You choose a jury of your peers. You can't pick a random 12 humans in America and go have them watch the Trump court case.
Right.
Derek, I agree with you. That was Debbie Wasserman Schultz. By the way, when I'm saying that, Biden is a stone cold killer, I mean, whoever this, Obama, Biden camp is, they know how to get the majority. And the only way to elect a change maker is to make them a conservative change maker. That's why Bill Clinton won as a Southern Democrat. That's why Biden won.
Bill Clinton played to those same fears that Reagan did. Crime. That like, I'm going to be tough on crime. That's how he convinced Republicans.
Get executed the day before he announced in Arkansas.
Yep.
Christopher Hitchens talks about that. That guy, when he went into the execution chamber, he saved his dessert for later because he did not have the mental capacity to understand that he was being killed right now.
Yeah.
And Bill Clinton took tough on crime when he go watch it.
Right.
Derek, I disagree with you about Buttigieg. I don't like Buttigieg. Bernie should have had him. My best friend in high school. His dad was a lobbyist for Texaco. I had no idea what that meant. He did like. Yeah, Derek, you're right. What I meant was, I'm getting younger. He may be setting the path for Harris. No, he is setting the path for Harris, and I think that's a trail that goes nowhere.
Yeah, man.
Harris is so incredibly unlikable.
She is one of my least favorite politicians I think I've ever seen on a campaign trail. Go ahead.
I don't get why these career politicians don't realize the one trait to win for office. You know what it is, right? You know what it is. Be a fucking human being.
Yeah.
Be a human.
Well, that's what Bernie was doing, and he got crucified for it.
Yeah. Well,
you know what I mean? Like, he was being a consistent human being and he got crucified for it.
That's because the campaign behind the word socialism is, very strong. Very strong. Right. Even though we have Social Security, Medicaid, 401k, even though
all of those conservatives who are fear socialism are all Christian or Catholic, and the God they pray to was the most socialistic person to ever exist.
This is what Republicans are great at. They're great at hijacking and like branding a theme. What Democrats are so bad at.
They're bad at it. They're so bad at it. I tell my Cuban mother all the time, if Jesus Christ came down with his sandals and robe and declared from the heavens, and declared tomorrow he was going to run for president of the United States, which is just an egotistical thing to even think about. Why would he run here? But let's just say he did. You would crucify him and compare him to Castro based off of his policies, because the first thing he'd want to do is take care of the poor. That would be number one policy on Jesus's papyrus that he brings down, in his agenda. Like, it would be number one would be take care of the poor. Number two would be to eliminate. I'm sure he would say eliminate. He hated rich people. He loathed wealth. So I think that would be the very next thing he would go after, would be the wealthiest, the 1,600 people that control the 99% of the money. There's not a lot of them. It's only a handful of fucking people. It's 1,600 people control most of the wealth on the planet. He would absolutely tackle and address that.
Thank you, Rodrigo.
Yeah, glad this is percolating your head, man. I'm really digging that you love this conversation, and this is why I wanted to have Jacob on, because he allows the breathing room for conversations like this to happen. And I think I think more people need to have conversations like this. I don't think they need to shy away from them. I think Americans, like I said, Americans have lost the art of discussing politics. It's a lost art, and it's something that I think we need to re-engage with. But to do that, you need to engage in the politics that you're talking about. Really engage, really understand. And the thing I love about comedians and folks in our field, the good ones anyway, is that they can point out those hypocrisies so well, and they do a really good job at it.
This is why comedy is like the closest thing we have to like a holy thing. I mean, it is just designed to
philosophize
point out pure intellectual truths.
Mm-hmm.
And you know it based on laughter. Like the reason why you're laughing is because it's so damn true.
Well, that's why South Park is so damn good, and there's a book that was written by a professor at the University of Delaware called The Philosophy of South Park. And it's all about comparing that writing to that of Socrates, where they satirize what's happening around them. They make it humorous, but they're also pointing to the absolute absurdity of what's going on around them. And South Park does a beautiful job at that. Like, I know Democrats, liberals that fucking hate that show, and I know hardcore conservatives that absolutely hate that show, which tells me they're right in the perfect spot. Like, that's exactly where they need to be. And it also, that's what comforts me when look at this hashtag make Jake your correspondent. I love it. This is what comforts me when God, that thought made me lose my thought. What was it? What comforts me? What the hell was I just talking about? I do this all the time.
We're talking about Socrates. We're talking about South Park.
Anyway, I can't remember what the hell I was going to say, but yeah, there's a lot of that happens, man. And I love those voices. I love people who can call that shit out. Oh, it comforts me in knowing that when you're pissing off both sides, which I tend to do, especially like on my Facebook, like people can't stand me and I'm talking about our mutual friends of ours, people that have been around me. They know what kind of person I am, what kind of human I am, what kind of soul I am. And for them to just immediately label me as a right-wing nut job because I'm fighting you on certain things is dangerous.
But you are in a new, not majority, but you are in a new sizable group now. And this is a group that I'm trying to come up with a name for that isn't the dark intelligence. Like, that's what I used to call it, but I don't really like that phrasing. But the reason why the Joe Rogan podcast is doing so well is because they're speaking to people like you.
Right.
Where he's not taking sides. He just wants to hear people speak in long format, Republicans, Democrats, whoever you are. And he has all these, millions and millions of views because we're a growing group. Mm-hmm. And I'm getting sick and tired of us being, and I'm just going to say it, of us being the smartest ones in the room.
Yeah.
Because we're seeing these people like, Lex Fridman, Richard Feynman, Carl Sagan, all these people, they're, we're in line with them. They're in line with us. And like, we are like a group now, and we have to make our voices even more heard. But I'm so glad that things like the Joe Rogan podcast exist. I mean, I only listen to it for like the science stuff and all that, but we're not like a minority of a minority anymore.
Right.
And
right.
No,
I agree. And it's one of those beautiful, and look, and here's the thing. And I also have to remind myself and just everyone who's watching here, there's never been a greater time in human history to be alive. There's never been more abundance. There's never been less crime. There's never been less poverty. There's never been less suffering than in human history. Really put that into perspective. As bad as we think things are, man, let's go to the dark ages for 15 minutes and then we'll talk about what's bad. Like, it's we got to keep that in mind when we're talking about things like this. This is an interesting question though. What do you guys think will happen to politics when we reach the singularity? Because I believe singularity will not be owned by the government. I agree.
Magic, what do you mean by singularity? What does that look like to you?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like, what is the singularity?
I've only started my research on this stuff, so disabuse me of my ignorance here. But I would like to know what that means. You teach me a thing or two about that. I think we are like approaching some sort of singularity, either as a race or as a species or something. Or even if you want to go and this is more abstract, but like the cells in our body add up to make us as a human, right?
Yeah.
Maybe we as humans are coming together to become something that'll be even more self-aware.
Yeah.
It'll reach this new level of consciousness.
Right.
I
mean, obviously, if we're talking about a consciousness thing, I don't think anybody could put any sort of propriety on that. That's going to be kind of tough to put a trademark on a conscious connection that everyone is sort of taking part of.
sorry, go ahead.
No, I was
the Fermi paradox. You know that, right?
Yes.
I mean, one reason why they're saying that maybe we haven't been contacted by aliens, if we haven't actually, Sagan and Shklovsky, I have written down here, speculated that technological civilizations will either tend to destroy themselves within a century of developing interstellar communicative capability, or master their self-destructive tendencies and survive for billion-year timescales. So if we reach some sort of singularity, I feel like we're at the precipice of either destroying ourselves or learning to overcome our own self-destruction.
Yeah.
This is what I meant.
I agree.
When
yeah.
I feel like another 9/11 is coming.
Yeah. Well, and I meant to ask you, so what do you think that's going to look like, another 9/11? Do you think it's going to be just a complete takeover of our electronic, like almost like a shutdown of our power grid and sort of internet structure?
This is the beauty of it. If I asked you on 9/10 what 9/11 would look like, you would never have ever have described those things to me.
Right.
And if somebody gives you an answer to that, they are.
But then again, that also depends on who you're talking to on 9/10, because you did have a lot of information floating around. The intelligence communities, they knew this was coming. Like they had it. They had information. They had data. There was a lot of things that were pointing to that. That Osama bin Laden was up to something. They had planes. They had hijacking. They had all of those things. Those what's the word I'm looking for? Those like those hit points, those data points. They had those. And the thing that stopped that information from getting to the right places was bureaucracy. And also like egos of different departments trying to be like, oh, I've got the jump on this. No, you're wrong. I've got the jump on this. And it's like, they both got it to a point where nobody was listening to them. And then it happened.
What a disgusting thing.
What's that?
What a disgusting thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's these, and that's what I'm saying. Like, these people in these positions of power are almost desensitized to the things that they're doing.
Well, let's also blame, us. In the UK, if the prime minister fails, they sack him and they replace him. Right. In the US, when George W. Bush failed to prevent 9/11, he got an approval rating of 97%. I'm confused. I'm confused about the American identity to know what to do next.
Yeah. Well, didn't he also? I mean, well, not only did he get fired, he got another 4 years.
Right.
So he got reelected.
There's some sort of hijacking of the American brain by this cabal that I don't get that response to 9/11. The response to 9/11 should have been sack everyone from top to bottom, replace everyone. Let's go.
Yeah, it's
Never,
an
because
absolute
the
failure.
president's number one job is national security. Do not let harm, but it happened on our soil. It makes no sense to me. And you know what's even sad? You know, that everyone is saying hashtag 9/11 never forget.
Yeah.
We're
Oh,
currently negotiating with the Taliban to release 5,000.
Well, the part that kills me is Trump when he issued that no fly list. A majority of those terrorists came from Saudi Arabia. Why are they not on the list? And why are you having Saudi Arabian officials stay at the Trump Hotel in Washington, D.C., which God knows what they're paying to stay there? But then, ironically, 2 weeks later, you approve one of the biggest arm deals ever to Saudi Arabia. And I don't know how that's not an impeachable offense. I do not know how you get
These are the people that are in charge, dude.
Yeah.
These are the people that are in charge.
And this is why I start going crazy. I start getting pissed off. I start getting upset because, and this is when I'm like, I'm out. I am fucking out. I'm here to watch it burn because, as far as I'm concerned, you're right. I am the guy outside of the Senate. I am the guy screaming and nobody's hearing me. But you want to know something? I'm going to also take pleasure in watching all you fuckers burn to the ground. And if I got to go down with you, so be it. So be it. So be it. And it's like, because I don't know how to convince these 200 plus people in positions of power that it's okay to be human. It's okay to have a conscience. It's okay to have a soul. Like, they're gone. They're so, like, when Nancy Pelosi is whipping out ice cream from a $10,000 refrigerator in the middle of a pandemic, my head almost exploded with anger. How angry I was when I saw that. Like, it's like, are you so inept? Are you so disconnected from your constituency that, and here's the part that I point out to especially the liberals out here. Don't you notice that, Nancy Pelosi's getting a lot of heat from her constituency, but you want to know something? So is the devil from Kentucky, Mitch McConnell. He's getting followed home in some parts and getting yelled out of restaurants. Both sides have anger directed at them. And what they've somehow figured out, instead of us pointing up, they somehow figured out a way for us to point at each other. And that to me is the biggest success of this political system. That to me is, they have done such a masterful job at getting us to be pissed off at
each other.
Poor people who want health care, like the lowest.
That's why I find this district politically interesting.
Like, you're trying to do something. My stepdad drives me crazy with his conservative bullshit when he's like, oh, all these people on Medicare and Medicaid and all these people taking advantage of the system. We're talking about 300,000 people. You're telling me 300,000 people are tanking the American economy? Are you serious? Like, are you serious right now? It's not the bombs we're dropping in countries we've never been to and on borders that have nothing to do with our national security. That has nothing to do with it. It doesn't have anything to do with the 50. They just approved I think it was a B. I just covered it on my show. A new B-52 Raider. I think it's a 52. B-52 Raider. They cost $500 billion a piece.
No, they don't.
A piece.
No, they don't.
Yeah, I'm telling you. And they ordered. No, maybe I'm wrong on the $500 billion. It's $500 million. So 500. Yeah, $500 million per plane, and they ordered 100 of them.
Yeah.
If you gave a bill, that's $1 billion for every 2 jets. So that means that you could cut that program and infuse $1 billion into each state in the union during a pandemic. Are you telling me that's not a better use of $1 billion?
Yeah. So we got to help people discover that the fight isn't between them. That's why I find this district kind of politically interesting, because the Cook PVI, which is the partisan index, is at 0. That means that it's like kind of split. Hey, my laptop's at 5%.
Okay. Well, no. Let's we've been going for 2.5 hours, so this has been a great conversation.
Rodrigo, I like your comment about Magic agreed the point we reached as civilization has no precedent. This is why I'm saying Congress needs to change, because I think we're about to enter into uncharted territory.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I love this. Everyone could have a $10,000 fridge. Everyone should have a $10,000 fridge. Yeah. You got to go look at that video. This fridge was stacked with the fanciest ice creams. It was insane. I mean, I would love to chill out at Pelosi's house and eat some of her ice cream, because it looked amazing.
You got to YouTube Kamala. We did it, Joe. If you want to feel your spine go up in your
no, I know exactly what you're talking about, and yeah, I'm done with the cringeworthy. I mean, like the only other politician that has made me feel that kind of way is Colin Powell, but we don't have time to talk about Colin Powell. Let's talk about him next time, because that's an interesting conversation. So, Jake, I want to thank you, my friend, for coming aboard, getting weird with me here on another episode of the Unidentified Celebrity.
That was normal to me.
I am so happy that you came back and joined us. I want to thank everyone who joined us in the chat. I want to say thank you to the sponsor, BlueMarlinChronicles.com, purveyors of the world's finest fishing tackle since 1995. Want to say thank you to DOS Tapes. They provide all of the music that you hear on the show. And yeah, I'm trying. Let's see. I don't know if we got in there yet, but we're trying to get over 600 followers tonight on my YouTube channel, or subscribers. So do me a favor, if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell. So that way, when we have live stream conversations with wonderful minds like this guy here, Jake Matthews, you are notified. JC, don't worry about being late, dude. It's a killer conversation. Just rewind it and watch it all the way through, because it's a wonderful, wonderful time. So thank you guys.
Tweet everybody in the comments. Thanks for you tuning in. I've never seen live comments like this when I do this. So,
well, the last time I wasn't doing this. I wasn't doing this the last time you were on the show. So
okay, cool.
So that is why, man. This is it's a whole new world for the Unidentified Celebrity Review. But yeah, I want to say thank you to all of you. Thank you for coming aboard. Thank you for getting weird. And yeah, this has been another episode of the Unidentified Celebrity Review, your home for credible news, reviews, and commentary on everything UFOs. Until next time, you guys stay safe out there. Peace.